All right, welcome back everyone to another exceptional episode of AI Data Mastery, where we dive deep into how AI and data are changing the B2B landscape, targeting those, what I like to call those kind of unsexy businesses, but still vital businesses that really make the world go round. Quick thanks to our sponsors, Data Accelerator and Evolve with AI. We appreciate you sponsoring the show and having great guests like we have here today within Jeff Smith. Jeff, today, he operates in one of the highest stakes B2B environments there is, which is healthcare, right? I mean, literally lives could be on the line. Jeff is from Spectrum Vascular, which leads enterprise relationships where trust, reliability, and long-term performance matter more than just speed and hype. So I don't want to, like I say always, I don't want to misrepresent or talk about the company. Just, that's why you're here. So without further ado, Jeff, well, welcome to the show. And tell us exactly what spectacular spectrum vascular. That's kind of a tongue twister there.
Yes.
What are you guys doing in the current marketplace, and what problem are you solving?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason. So, yeah, hello to all your listeners and viewers out there. So, again, thanks for having me, Jason. So, Spectrum Vascular is about 2.5 years old now. So, we're still getting the brand awareness out there. So, the fact that it doesn't roll off your tongue is to be expected. One day, though, Jason, it will roll off the
I
tongue.
think I was just trying to say it too fast, and it was at the
Yeah,
end of
I
that
think I
intro
think
there.
after 30 months I have it down now, but all good. So yeah, 20 years of medical device for me. I came over in a divestiture from a publicly traded company that a couple of our products came from, and then we grabbed a couple of products over from another private company as well. We are private ourselves. We're in two very different markets with two kind of gorillas in the room, if you will, that have about 80% market share on both sides. So as my kind of line is monopolies are bad for the buyer. I consider myself a buyer as well. I'm a consumer in the market, just like most everybody that's listening to the show. And here in the United States of America, most of us are capitalists, so we're looking for a free market economy. So that's kind of the short version of why Spectrum came to be. You have two very different sides of the business where they have different competitors, but again, 80 plus percent plus market share. So what makes us different? So I think again, kind of the theme of the show is obviously the AI component here in 25 now into 26. We're finally there into
Yeah.
26. But what we do is in healthcare today, as far as the buying goes, it's very contracts driven. There's clearly a clinical component to it, obviously. It needs to be patient beneficial, clinician beneficial. There needs to be positive outcomes when it comes to making us all feel better. There's prospective studies, there's retrospectives, there's IRB backed. There's a lot of different acronyms, as with most industries. So we won't get into the nuances, everyday nomenclature of those. But basic from a high level, it's to say, all right, what's best for the patient? That's the most important. What helps the clinician help out that patient? And then obviously you got to have the financial side as well. So what can be good for the P&L? Not only for the patient, the clinician, but also for the health system. We need the health system to be benefited as well so that the hospitals can stay open, the non-acute and just the everyday strip mall when you kind of drive down the road and you see the urgent cares or these other non-acute facilities that are there. They all fall under somebody's big P&L somewhere. So at Spectrum, we believe, as do most when they sell their product, right? Is that our product can kind of check all three boxes. We are using AI on a daily basis to pull, there's so much data. I mean, that's an easy statement, no matter the industry, but even more so now than ever. And I'm a big sports fan, so you're going to hear some sports metaphors interwoven here in today's conversation. But there's so much data in the sports world, so that's kind of where my fun head goes. It's the same thing in healthcare for obvious reasons. So we use AI to say, all right, what does help the patient first? What does help the clinician within the procedure? What does keep that P&L on the black side of the ledger as well? And so that's where we feel that right now, with those two sort of gorillas with this 80% market share, maybe they're resting on their laurels a little bit and maybe getting a little too comfortable. And again, to be pushed is usually good for everyone, for not only for us as a new company to these spaces, and not only for the buyers that all of us are, but also for the incumbent as well. It kind of pushes them to say, all right, what's new? What do we need to do new to benefit all of us? Because obviously there will be a point. hopefully no time soon, but I'll be a patient as well one day. But I want to make sure that those devices and that healthcare is helping out my family, me, my family, selfishly me, my family as well. Obviously, Jason, your family, and all the listeners as well. So that's kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
I don't know, I kind
obviously
of went in a
every
bunch of different directions, but that's the gist of it.
no, I mean, I liked how it's, there has to be competition within every space, right? So if there's this, like in your particular, what you're saying, there's these large 800-pound gorillas that have 80% of the market share. Well, without somebody like Spectrum Vascular, see, I said it right that time. Um, you have to create competition. You have to give. I mean, you don't have to, but it's great that you're there giving these clinicians, giving people a different option. To create that competition. One, it makes you better, gives them options, and then just everybody has to keep their sword sharp, so to speak, to stay competitive and stay relative. Yeah, because monopolies only work for the person that has the monopoly, right? Everybody else, especially in the healthcare space, I mean, it's the worst thing for the end user, right? If you don't have multiple businesses competing on R&D, competing on price, competing on deliverables, competing on client satisfaction, if you don't have everybody caring about all of these different things based off, the need to be the best or compete in the space, then um, you know, the end result is the patient, you or I or our families, are the one that loses out.
Yeah, competition good for all parties in all walks of life as well. I think too the other good part about this that I failed to mention as well is we have market credibility already. So the two companies that came together, we're on the medal stand. They're just not playing our anthem. So we're not the gold medalist, but we're a silver and a bronze depending on which side of the house you're looking at. So there is credibility there. There are clinical studies in the market already. There are contracts in the market. There is familiarity with the brand and the product itself, not only with the clinicians, with the patients too. So there is familiarity there. It's just now coming together and all right, how do you take that and really again push that gold medalist so that it can say, all right, we've got a viable competitor right now. So right now the pie graph breakdown is golly, 80, 12, 6, and some change. So it's like, that 12 in one of our, but we want to take 12 to 25, and then that starts to push them. Or if we're one of the sixes, we want to take that to 10 to push the silver, to push the gold. And again, that can only be beneficial from everyone. But I mean, in 26, we just had a call this morning, in fact, with a subset of clinicians, and they were asking some of these very questions where we had an independent, non-spectrum vascular speaker, non-compensated spectrum vascular speaker speaking on behalf of just kind of what's going on in vascular access. His company, obviously fortunate for us, does use our product. So we had some independent clinical studies that he was sharing with these clinicians, and they were asking questions like, all right, there's only 24 hours in a day and there's so much to do. And all of us, again, no matter what we're doing, we're like, all right, what's the priority? How do we put a line through number one? How do we put a line through number two? Well, when the clinician's taking care of the patient is the focus, and rightfully so. But they're usually running from one patient to the other. How do they extract the data, collect it, compile it, and present it into a nice, clean, easy to understand, trackable format so that the viewer, the listener, the audience can go ahead and understand what the heck is going on and then try to replicate. Well, this specific nurse spoke to that on this morning's call. He's like, hey, I had a practice. Somebody asked me how it was performing. I said, good question. I went ahead and tracked the data. I set up my own little algorithmic based formula, went to some of the patients, got their permission, tracked how it was performing, and then put that all together over a 12-month period of time too. That's pretty aggressive. Good for him. It's like 3,600 patients, and he did it all independent. Now he's like, I acknowledge there was not a IRB, internal review board. There wasn't an IRB reviewing it. This is all anecdotal, full disclosure, but this is what I tracked. And then I was be able to bring back to the chief medical officer, the chief nursing officer, and then clearly used AI to kind of put it all together in a nice presentable format. So I think all of us, we're all using AI now. I mean, even just getting on the phone, I love it because now it's not Google in it. You literally just say it in there and somebody's pulling it all together in the background and then telling me my answer nice and quick. We're all doing that very easy. That's super oversimplified for sure, but that's basically what the common person's doing right now. Over in healthcare, though, again, you're pulling all this clinical data, you're pulling all these financials, and it's got to be a nice, easy, quick, easy way to present. Like I tell my kids, no matter who you're talking to or when you're talking to them, they've always got their mind on their phone. Even if it's not in their hand, their mind's on it. So they're always distracted. Literally everybody. Your listeners right now are distracted. Jason, even you're a little bit distracted, which is all good. I'm probably distracted. We all are. So it just needs very, very easy to digest. And that's where we're using AI to pull it all together.
Yeah, because you have to grab their attention quickly. You have to speak directly to that problem that they're looking to solve or that you can solve for them. And you don't have, you literally don't have more than like a couple sentences. You know what I tell, it's like what, when we're prompting things out or talking to my team, it's like, what is the bleeding neck problem? If you want to speak to somebody right now, what is their bleeding neck problem that they have to solve? And that's how we almost kind of base everything. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're looking to solve. They're not looking to, most people aren't thinking 12 or 24 months ahead. It's, depending on who your target is, in the B2B space, you're targeting these decision makers who are, oftentimes trying to keep their jobs, have a lot of pressure to make XYZ happen or to perform or to do this or to deliver these results, deliver these great numbers to the board, things of that nature. So it's, from a B2B standpoint, it's like, how can I help this person? How can I help my ICP keep their job, right? How, or not even keep their job, but how can I make them look like the hero of their company in the next 24 months and secure that job security? And then maybe, approach things from that type of angle where you can utilize, to your point though, utilizing AI, you can say, hey, here's a specific job title, here's the industry, here's the situation, here's a transcript of our conversation if you've had one, things of that nature. What's their bleeding neck problem that keeps them up at 3 a.m. at night? That they're in fear of because they might lose their job, and how can Spectrum Vascular come in and help solve this and help them sleep at night? The way you kind of prompt things and the way you angle things makes a big difference. But something like that, coming up with that type of, from a Google standpoint, researching it, looking at blog posts and articles, I mean, you're talking, to a typical salesperson, that could take a day if you're lucky, and if they even do it nowadays, again, you come up with the right prompt that you can then duplicate and redo, duplicate and use over and over, that can take somebody 4.7 seconds to accomplish that. It's pretty remarkable. You should never go into a call, an email, a presentation unprepared at this point, especially in the B2B space where that relationship and that knowledge means so much.
Well articulated. And then two, with healthcare, because you kind of said it from the outset, it is sort of its own special industry. And here's why: there's an emotional side to it. There's still a very human element. Breaking news: we're all going to die. So, and that is emotional for those that are left behind.
Or going to get hurt or going to be in some emotional traumatic situation, right? It's not
Nailed
even
it.
so
And
much
that's kind of
dying,
where I was
but I
going.
mean,
It's an evolution. Hopefully, it's an evolutionary process to that end all be all. Hopefully, it's nothing something sudden, crazy, and quick. So, where I'm going with it though is you take all of this information and then you've got the whole we are still human beings. And there's a finality to this story. And then there's the emotional side to say, and we talk about this all the time internally. And I know this is going to sound like I'm waving the Spectrum cheerleader flag. I get it. But for 20 years, I've been with a couple of these products. I genuinely believe that they work better than the ones on the market. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've heard patient testimonials. I've seen the clinicians articulate it as well. Now it's to say, you gotta own it now. You're like, all right, there's no excuses as far as lack of resources. AI has given us literally every possible resource we want. There's obviously TMI at this point. Now we got to figure out, how do we take all of this I information and then give it to the I of those that are watching to understand what's going on. And to do that, and I feel like, again, we talk about this a lot with Spectrum, is that we know it works. If those out there aren't understanding it, we need to kind of own that. I know this is probably sounding like, come on, give me a break. But it's a little bit different in healthcare than maybe some other industries. I'm not saying all industries, because there's a human element to everything, but the fact that all of us, literally every one of us, will be involved in healthcare in one way or the other. Either we'll be the provider, will be the recipient, maybe the payer, maybe the manufacturer, supplier,
A little
whomever,
bit of everything.
all involved with the human element side of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not strictly dollars and cents. There is an emotional piece to it in the healthcare space.
Absolutely.
And but that goes back to where, that's why that B2B, in that space or in your space, that human relationship is so important. You can't just run in, some AI bot to email somebody some information and they're going to be like, yeah, let's sign up. Here's my credit card, or I'll ACH you whatever X amount of dollars. Let's go. You have to have that human connection, human relationship, and really build that trust and credibility.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting. You talked about B2B, and I know that's the theme of your show. And let's address that for a second. The product that's going in the patient's body, the patient isn't the B2B. They're the B2C. So
Mhm.
it's almost like they're over here and yeah, it ends up in them, but the business conduit, the doctor, the nurse, the PA, maybe the buyer, the CNO, CMO of the health system, they're actually the B. So they're the expert. And I'm the same way. I admit, when I go in to see the physician, I implicitly trust the physician. I'm like, please be at the top of your class. But either way, you got the MD behind your name. So let's hope that you know what the heck you're doing. And I can see, though, I understand why second opinions are out there. It makes sense. Again, we're humans. There's error. Totally get it. Now, for a medical device manufacturer supplier, our buyer is the B. It's not the actual C, the consumer. It ends up in that consumer's body. So what we need to do, bring back in AI again, bring it back into 26, as well as the theme of the show, right? Is to have these discussions between one business and another business to say how we benefit the actual customer, which is the patient, by using all of that information. And then, and we tell them this too, we're like, the way that we're presenting this to you in this simplistic format, we're not pretending that you're a Harvard MD. Well, you may be. You have to be able to explain it to somebody with my IQ, and I am not a Harvard MD. So somebody like me, a patient that would come in and say, all right, doctor so-and-so, nurse so-and-so, why are you using this? And then if need be, pull up the study, pull up the AI generated data, pull up something nice and simplistic to be able to show the patient to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why you're doing it to your body. It's not like going to I mean, I do this all the time. I go to the mechanic and the mechanic will say, hey, your car needs da la la la. And I'm asking them how much it is first. It's my first question. Like, all right, how much is it? Is
Yeah,
this really
exactly. What can we
they
shave off the top of this?
don't do that on they don't do that on their body. They're not asking how much it costs. They're asking, will it save me, make me feel better, get me the heck out of here quicker? That's what they're not asking how much.
Yeah, exactly. Am I going to survive?
Right, exactly. And that's where the human emotional element comes in.
Gotcha. But then in terms of that acquisition process or client acquisition process for Spectrum Vascular, when you're marketing or reaching out or establishing those relationships, you're marketing to those doctors or those physicians or those clinicians as the conduit to be recommended for that, to be recommended to the directly to the consumer, correct? You have to
Correct.
build your because obviously marketing, there's so many pieces to marketing. People think of marketing nowadays and it's just like, oh, a click to a website and somebody clicks a button and fills out a form, and they've converted, right? But from the B2B space, you need to build trust and credibility through a certain industry or within a certain demographic, certain job titles, certain individuals, within a certain industry, so that way they can refer you with confidence, right? But then on the flip side, you also have to make sure that you're not neglecting and just relying on their referral, but you have to find and target those direct consumers as well, to target them with a different type of ad or a different type of trust and credibility type of marketing. So it's really kind of it's I guess to my point is you're in that tricky situation where it's not straightforward. It's not like, hey, here's my ICP, here's my ideal client profile. How do I talk to them? How do I reach them? Really, you have two completely separate ideal client profiles, and one of them isn't really your direct consumer, because they're really, how do you even measure that? How do you even specifically measure the end result of that? You're marketing to these doctors. If they're not, obviously there's a referral piece to it and things like that, but it's unique, I guess. It's not just one end result. It's two completely ICPs.
Well, and also the doctor or the nurse, the clinician's going to want to put her or his hands on it too, because they're going to want to give it a run before they put it into a patient's body. So they're going to want to understand what it does, touch it, feel it, see if there's any obstacles, just differences. Maybe not
Yeah, but
even.
okay, to my point, like that, I mean, that person who's going to refer you, yeah, it's not just even just running an ad, sending an email, connecting with them on LinkedIn, like that type of stuff. Yeah, you have to mail them something. You have to get them to touch it, feel it, use it, demonstrate it. I mean, to my point, it's just more of that uphill battle that you're going through in that B2B sales process. To get to that end results, or that end conversion, all while you still have to stay in front of the directly to the consumer and maintain trust and credibility within the market space to that person as well.
Yeah, we kind of call it a 3 for 3 step process. To the 3 ways to initially engage digital marketing is still clearly with social or any digital marketing, no doubt about it. It's funny now, it's traditional digital marketing, which used to be futuristic, but now it's traditional, which is hilarious. We've been on the planet a long time. Second is like education seminars, symposiums, education talks, trade shows, and then obviously just one-on-one peer-to-peer stuff, just at the local level. So you've got that. Then to the point that you're making, Jason, that's step 1 in the process. Step 2 now is the evaluation by the clinician. So rest assured, all patients out there that are listening, the doctor or nurse is not using it on you first. First of all, the FDA has to approve it. And that's it. It's an extremely complex vetting process, which is a good thing. I love our regulatory bodies here in the
You
United
guys aren't the
States.
test subjects.
Yeah, very good that we live here. I'm a big USA fan. I'm glad I live here. It's one of the many reasons. We have a very strict regimental vetting process to get something 510(k) approved through the FDA. So that's good. Then it goes over to the physician, because even the physician or the clinician is not going to say, all right, well, the FDA says it's good, let's rock. No, they got to see how it's going to be plugged into their practice. So our step 2 is some sort of clinical evaluation. Then at that point, and they'll do it for 1, 2, 3 weeks, maybe a couple of months, for a prolonged period of time, tracking the data back to the point of this show, compiling it all together using AI and various other resources so that they can simplistically come to a conclusion like, yes, this is what's best for my practice, best for my patients. And then step 3 is the final, and that's the conversion that you mentioned. So it's a very systematic approach. So again, it's kind of reassuring for all of us to hear. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to choose that one because it's purple, or oh, I like Tony over there. He's a good dude. He took me out. No, no, no. Those days are way, 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 way
Send me a
long.
bottle of Blue Label. I'm going to use his stuff.
Yeah, you got it. So it's an arduous process to get to the point where it's used on all of us in a patient setting.
Oh well, I mean, obviously that's good to know and reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
So so talk to us. I mean, how hard is it to, I guess, to earn trust in the space? I know you had mentioned you're newer, but you have still trust and credibility in this space. But how important is that trust and credibility in the space when you're reaching out to doctors or consumers? And then I don't want to say how easy it is. Let's just stick with that. How important is that trust and credibility within the space when building relationships and trying to get that end consumer to convert?
Sure. It was easier back when we had brand awareness of who we were. Now with the new brand, again, that's where the digital marketing comes in, is just to kind of get this name out there, which is why I'm wearing the swag today, to
Good
get
for
that
you.
Spectrum Vascular out there. But the good news is that we have the tens of, what do we got? 37 peer-reviewed studies over the course of a couple of decades. So those clinicians know the product already, and they're asking the appropriate questions to say, all right, wow, you've got this success of yesteryear, if you will. what's new today and now kind of what's coming. We have a robust R&D department, incredibly smart individuals, way smarter than me, that's for sure. That's why I'm on commercial. But that are figuring out how to organically grow that into the next generation of what's needed for the patient. And then obviously with M&A too. So we're acquiring new products too here specifically, but it's really that engagement with the clinician to say, all right, here's our clinical data compiled again, whatever it be, 37 studies, growing now to 41 here shortly. Bring it all together with that data. But the good news is for all of us listeners out there, the first question that's asked is, who's using it today? Can I speak with them? Where do I find out their data so that I can see the positive patient outcome? Then it should be then we got to do the whole P&L contract thing. Now, what's tricky, where it gets tricky, because now you're like, all right, Jeff, this sounds like a utopian society. Like everybody's out for what's best for the patient, which is true more often than not. But the P&L is still very important. And obviously, we still got two gold medalists on either side of the house here that have 80% plus market share. And they do have good products. I think ours is better, but whatever. That's me, right? So I'm biased. But where they're going then is the biggest challenge, if you're to say, hey, what's the biggest challenge? Again, it's to get this name out there as fast as possible. Fine, asked and answered. But it's also contracts are a part of it. They just are. They're a part of everything. So if they're in it, whatever that is, health system, and they've been there for 12 years, and we need to go in and say, hey, this is a little bit different. Here's why. So if you may have this issue, then we do have a solution. Sometimes, though, it's kind of like, what's the best example I can give? I have X TV. I'm trying to use without brands. Let's say I use X streaming service or really satellite. I'll just cut to the chase. I'm using X satellite. It's expensive. I know it is, but it's easy. There's definitely better options out there, but now there's the whole, okay, the pain to convert. What don't I know? If I go away from this satellite and I go, I'm just a sports junkie, and I really go over to wherever the sports streaming is, which would be a lot less costly for me, probably more user friendly because I get rid of the movie aspect. I'm not a movie guy. So I would just come over here and just buy what I actually need and what's best for me, kind of the same thing. But there's always that unknown. Like, all right, what am I missing? Is that going to buffer? Am I going to be able to change the channel? When it rains, can I not watch TV? Which is still mind-boggling to me in 2026. But if it rains, we can't watch TV sometimes with satellite. Craziness. It's 2026. So those sorts of things, and those are still over. Get it? I'd be the same way. I mean, I am. I'm a consumer. So those are the overcomable objections that we have to show. And that's where to kind of go back to the theme once again. I know I sound like a parrot, but you bring in all this data and you simplistically present and you try to anticipate the objection and you say, we get it. Here's what's happened in that spot. And then you can see it and you almost predict what's going to come. Normally, we get to that step 2 of the process where the clinician will say, totally get it. Makes sense. Let's see if it's good for my practice. Let's evaluate. I don't know if that answered the question. It's long-winded, of course, but that's my answer.
No, no, no. And I mean, to reiterate your point there at the end, it's definitely right on target. But yes, it's anticipating those objections. You don't have to go in and spend countless hours researching what those industry pain points are, or what I refer to as those bleeding neck problems. You can have them like that. You can anticipate those objections. You can address them up front. You can include them in the proposal. You can literally be that industry expert, within seconds. So that way, that potential client, that prospect can understand that you feel their pain. You're right there alongside them, so to speak, because of the way you can, speak as an industry expert utilizing AI and, everything at your fingertips.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
What else? What other, you mentioned, going to like trade shows, conferences, is that still part of the, part of the relationship building process, boots on ground, passing out business cards? Or I guess one question, because if you're nodding the head, yes, you're still doing trade shows and conferences. My question then is, do you find that money's better spent sponsoring trade shows and conferences and having like one booth waiting for somebody to walk by? Or do you go there as an attendee and try to mix and mingle and do as much as possible as, a guest or attendee?
Yeah, good question. The business cards are pretty much out now. I have some, but I never use them. So those days are almost over now, which is
I
good.
don't
Just
even
kind of
have the, yeah, I don't even have business
yeah,
cards
kind of
anymore.
bang the phones together and we can usually share contact, which is nice
Yeah, I
and
was going
easy.
to say there's those little $6 a month apps that you can have your little, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you got it. So
I guess
the
that's what I meant by business cards. Are you just out swapping information, or
no.
do you try to set up a booth?
Yeah, to your point, there are still booth shows out there. I don't see much ROI on it. Where I do a booth show means I probably already have the business and I'm just there to say thank you. Because if I wasn't there, they'd say, "Why aren't you here?"
Yeah, and then you don't want one of your competitors to say, "Oh, well, we'll go."
Yeah, the ROI benefit we get now is they call them reverse expos. So it's really where the customer, the other side of the B, if we're the front B, they're the back B, where they're actually in the booth. And they allow us to come and see them and find them. Now, fortunately, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, but at this point in the career, I've been around a little bit. So I always tell people it's not talent, it's just that I've outlasted some folks. So it's the fact that when we get that attendee roster and they have their reverse expo piece, we should know about 2/3 of the folks there. So the benefit is instead of flying all over the country, you're really getting them all and basically 4 times a year. So it saves money, time, resources on all sides of it, which hopefully in a trickle down economic world trickles down to all of us at the consumer level to say, all right, they're not wasting money, killing the environment, moving all around just to see one person. We're seeing 20, 30, 40 people in a 48-hour period because it's these third party companies are kind of bringing them all together. But it's not like a traditional show. There are those. There are. I was in one in Germany second week of November. It's called Medica. It's massive. It is massive. It's the largest one on planet Earth. It's the biggest one for Europe. I would argue again the largest one I've ever attended. It's 7 football fields. Actually, it's more than that. It's like 12 football fields worth of buildings, worth of new devices, old devices, etc. So somebody can literally walk around for 72 hours and see whatever the heck they want to see.
Wow.
But it's almost it is overwhelming, not almost. It is overwhelming. So when you go to something like that, it's a very targeted approach. You've already set up all your engagements, your meetings, but prior to, and you know exactly where you're going. Back here in the States, we have those. They're smaller, but where I see the most benefit though is where again, there's 30 to 40 people that I kind of already know are going to be there, which might lead me to 2 or 3 other folks. But again, that's just like the initial entry into somebody's house. At that point, now you still got to get them to sit down for dinner and do the actual evaluation where the clinician can use it.
Yeah. What is your, just out of curiosity, I mean, what's your average bite cycle from initial like handshake, hey, we're interested, this might be a good fit to, contract signed, money has exchanged,
Yeah, 6 to 12, 6 to 12 months. It's long.
I was, that is a decent one. That we were talking with a business who sells was talking with the guy doing a pre-show. He hasn't been on this show yet, but it's an MRI machine and it's an 18-month buy cycle. He's
Yeah,
like, Jason, he goes, I literally have to get, in some cases we have to get hospitals or facilities to reinforce the floor before I can put the machine on the ground.
sure.
So it's not just like saying, oh yes, I'll buy your, whatever it is, several $100,000 machine. It's like, yes, we have to do all this work. We have to get structural approval. We have to, and he's like, in my buying committees, 20 people at minimum at these, healthcare facilities.
Well, and in
So
our case too, they're actually 3-year contracts. So I say 6 to 12. That's if somebody's in a contract cycle piece. If somebody's already signed, it's pretty tough. It's going to be 3 years. It's pretty tough to stop a contract midterm unless you have some groundbreaking science behind your device that is going to cure a disease state. I mean, I say that as a hyperbolic statement, but you get my point. There's going to need to be a lot of data for someone to break a contract midterm. And I get it. I have contracts as well that are committed. And if somebody came to me midterm and said, hey, we're moving over here, I'm like, well, I've got a year and a half of product being built right now that somebody's going to have to buy. So
yeah,
you want to do
exactly.
that, so be it. But it's in your terms right now that you're going to have to eat this.
But at the same time, contracts are always coming up for renewal. So from
Absolutely.
that B2B marketing standpoint, there's, that whatever analogy you want to use, but that seed you're planting today could be a deal for 24 months from now.
Right.
But, that constant drip, the digital ads, the AI automation that sends them some blog posts and some articles on a weekly or monthly basis, or a newsletter to stay in front of them, the constant reminders to the sales team to give them a call or shoot them a text message, so that way, hey, it's 6 months into that or 6 months up, and 6 months till their contract's up. Now they're going to start exploring some options. Well, geez, the guys from Spectrum Vascular stayed in touch. I see their ads everywhere, bunch of good client reviews. They must be doing something right. Let's make sure we give them an opportunity. And that's where, that highly targeted B2B type of marketing, comes in and can be taken advantage of if you use it correctly. It's so much is focused on, just because that's what's popular with what I call those sexier businesses, the B2C businesses, where it's, selling a pair of Jordans or some e-com type of thing, where B2B, it's just such a different, beast, where it's, yes, there is about a conversion. That is the end result, but that end result in your case is 18 months out. So there's a lot of marketing and trust and credibility and touch points and impressions and, reflection points that can be generated during that 18-month process to turn up the dial and significantly increase the probability of closing. And that's, what AI, I think, is going to be helping with. Now, I think we talked about in the pre-show, there's that pendulum. AI can only do so much, right? Especially in the B2B and large ticket, but it's, can it jump in and handle 15 to 25%, with the human being handling the rest? Is it going to be 50-50, which I doubt it'll end up getting to 50-50, but where that pendulum comes to rest will be interesting.
And to give the listener, the patient, a little bit of peace of mind, the good ones, the really good buyers, providers, group purchasing organizations, health systems, etc., they give still clinicians choice. So even though a committed contract is written for 3 years, it's not as if that incumbent is just like, all right, we don't really have to do anything now for at least 2 years. We can worry about it in year 3. The good ones, the ones that really put the resources in, that really care, is that they're given choice to the clinician to say, hey, you do what's best for the patient first. The contract's over here to support the P&L, but you do what's best for the patient first. And if it's Spectrum Vascular's technology because it has XYZ, or it's this other technology because it has ABC, so be it. But here's your 2 choices. Now you go choose what's ever best for the patient. So that's the other good side about healthcare, is that there should be, there's some that are not. That's aside for another story.
There's always the bad apples.
But for those that really do the work, they allow the choice to be given to the doctor, the nurse, the PA, whomever, that will most benefit the patient.
All right, perfect. I just realized we're already several minutes past that 30-minute mark. This has been phenomenal. We could probably I don't know if we could go Joe Rogan style and keep people attentive or keep people's attention for a few hours, but I think we've done a great job so far. It's been phenomenal learning about the company Spectrum Vascular. I've said it right every time since. I wonder why I got so tongue-tied initially. I should have practiced a few times. It's because I didn't usually I practice, and Jeff Smith's almost impossible to mispronounce, obviously, so I didn't have to practice. I've had a few tricky ones recently. But anyways, pleasure to have you on the call. I appreciate you sharing, appreciate you taking your time. Definitely think our audience gained something from it. It's definitely it's a tricky world with a lot of moving parts right now, this whole B2B client acquisition space, and where's it going to go? How are you going to initially attract clients if the old traditional methods aren't working anymore, if less and less people are showing up to trade shows and conferences, and if less and less is in person? Well, how are you going to get your foot in the door and attract the attention? How are you going to build the trust and credibility? How are you going to solidify yourself as the market expert or the authority so you can gain those relationships and close deals? And a lot happening, and can't wait to see where it goes.
It was great to join you, Jason. Best to you on your show. Continued success. And I'm glad that the listeners allowed me to kind of join your show. So thank you.
One last question. I always used to ask, like, what's your favorite book? And when it comes to your profession, sales and marketing and business development, do you have a book that stands out that's helped? But then I also throw out there's a podcast instead of a book, because I know everyone's kind of into podcasts these days.
Just started Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. So it was given out by my boss. And in the first, I'm about 6, 7 chapters in right now. So it does it addresses exactly the thematic of the show is
Mhm.
that leading in this world is very different than what it was 20 years ago. So what are you kind of willing to do to continue to, yes, use all this data, everything we've talked about over the last, half hour or so, but also there's still a human side to it as well. So there's still emotion a part of it every day. I know, we're in January now. We're 21 days deep. Everybody's resolutions right now maybe hemorrhaging a little bit. Tempers might be, the fuse
Yeah.
might be
Do I
a
do I
little.
really have to do that?
Right,
Maybe
exactly.
it's not so, maybe just dial that back a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like the
exactly.
word hemorrhaging. Everybody's New Year's resolutions are hemorrhaging right now. That's a good word.
Just a little bit, little bit. But anyway, no, good book that Doug Shook, he's my boss. He gave it to me, so a few of us are reading that one. I just because we're talking books, I literally finished last night. David Goggins, the Navy SEAL about Can't Hurt Me.
Hmm.
That one is awesome. So I don't know if he's listening or not. If he's a listener, that book is phenomenal. Now that dude is next level. His mental strength. It's just, anytime you read something, you try to take a little bit out of it and put it into your everyday life. But the physical strength is something that I'll never hit. But he talks about you only use about 40% of what you can do every day. So whether it be 40, 60, whatever the percentage, there's probably just a little bit more than all of us can do. And we kind of talked about that on a team as a team this week too. We're not the gorilla. We're like the chimpanzee, but there's more that we can do. And we need to make sure that we're doing that for all of us so that that doctor or nurse knows exactly what we have so that the patient can benefit in the end. So that's kind of my closing speech is that we're super excited at Spectrum to be in this game and we're happy to be with this again sport and the swag, but we're going to go after these two gorillas because we got something pretty cool over here.
Yeah, I like that approach. I mean, in my previous life, I was in the mortgage business, and I remember somebody or like a boss telling us like you can't look at it like you want them to work with you, but like what if they don't work with you? What if they go across the street and get dinged an extra point, or get delivered bad service, or their mortgage closes late and they lose their escrow deposit? Like you can't think of it as you want them to work with you, but what if they go somewhere else and get worse service or get service that they don't deserve? Whatever the case is, like they approach it like that, they need to work with you. And that's what you made me think of right there is, it's not that we want more business or we want to, go poke the gorilla, but you need to go do this so clinicians and your clients, the end results or the end consumers know they have options, know this technology's out there. It's not something that you want to do but need to do so they can be provided the best care possible. Like it's almost like you're doing your clients an injustice by not marketing to them and letting them know about you, right?
Yes, correct. Period at the end of the sentence. Well
Period
stated.
at the end of the sentence. Show's over. Let's go. End.
Yeah.
All right. Well, honestly, we can wrap it up there. I again really appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody listening's time. Appreciate the sponsors, Data Accelerator and Evolve with AI. And sign in again soon for another episode, or tune in again soon if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever if this is a clip on social media. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and thank you again, Jeff. Jump over to Spectrum Vascular, learn about all the cool stuff they're doing over there, and appreciate everybody's day. We'll sign out there. Take care.